Hey guys, it's Neil again from Heart of Texas Armory, and today I wanted to do a video review of one of my favorite quartz watches. So this beautiful watch you see in front of you is a Casio. You can see it right there on the dial, and this is a Casio MTD-1051. Pretty rare watch and pretty desirable as well. You can tell just by looking at this watch that it's an homage to the Omega Seamaster. So this is affectionately known as the Casio Seamaster. And again, this is one of my favorite watches here. Wears really nice, has a lot of great features and specs that we'll take a look at here with this video review. So I wanted to show you what this watch looks like on my 7-inch wrist here. This is a 41mm case diameter here. But what we'll do next is we'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit so we can take a look at this cool watch in a little more detail. All right, guys, I've got the watch removed from my wrist here so we can take a look at it. And let's go ahead and slide it over to the right-hand side of the screen and have these specs for this particular watch pop up. So we'll start off with case diameter. So 41 millimeter case diameter, and that is always a positive in my book. If you've watched any of my video reviews of watches, you know that I love that case diameter size. So 41 is just a sweet spot for me. I believe that this particular watch would probably fit wrist sizes, small as 6 1/4, probably up to maybe close to 8 inches. So just about anyone's wrist size is going to work with the 41 millimeter case diameter. Lug width here, we're looking at 20 millimeters. So just about any manufacturer of bracelets or straps is going to have quite a few options available in 20 millimeters. One of the most common lug widths around, so that's a positive. Lug to lug, which is from this point here up to the top of that lug, you're looking at 48 millimeters. I always tend to like watches that are below 50 millimeters from lug to lug, so the 48 here, that's a win. Now, the weight, you're looking at 120 grams, so not too heavy. This is a quartz watch, so they tend to be a little lighter usually than most mechanical watches, but 120, it's got a good weight to it. It doesn't feel like a toy. It's certainly not made out of any cheap materials. I really like that weight. The 120 grams feels good on the wrist. It's not too heavy, but it's also, like I said, not too light that it feels like a toy. And that comes out to about 4.2 ounces. Now your module here, we'll go ahead and flip the watch over so you can see the case back. It is listed here on the back of the case back, but the module is a Casio module, of course. It is 2719. And that particular module uses a CR2012 battery. Now, the cool thing is this particular watch, it has a 10-year battery life. So you won't have to really open this case back very often. In fact, this has a brand new battery in it, so I'm expecting it to last close to 10 years. So that's really nice. This watch also has a mineral crystal here, which is a nice upgrade over a lot of other quartz watches. This one is actually usable. Sure, mineral crystal will scratch, but it's going to hold up to some abuse. So you can see this watch here is probably close to 10 years old, and there's hardly any scratches. There are a few chips. We'll look at it when we zoom in a little more. But mineral crystal holds up pretty good. Definitely would have rather had sapphire, but again, most quartz watches are not going to have that. Now, another cool thing is this watch does have a full 200-meter water resistance rating. So this is a dive watch. And I've went ahead and sealed both the crown and the case back on this, and also lubed it up a little bit with some grease. So this watch here I expect would survive scuba diving. Not saying I would probably take this watch to do that, but it could certainly do it. And that's always a positive. So let's go ahead and zoom in one more time and get a little closer, and we'll go through this watch, some of the talking points. All right, guys, so let's go through some of these talking points. So let's go ahead and start out with the case and also the overall looks of this watch. As I mentioned earlier, this is obviously a homage of the Omega Seamaster. So you should be seeing a picture of one of those watches pop up right now so you can compare against this one. And I feel this is a positive for me because I love the Omega Seamaster. I think it's an absolute classic at this point. It is one of the best dive watches ever designed. It was, of course, featured in some of the Bond films in the 90s. And with me being an 80s baby, it was just super cool, that particular watch. So I love that this Casio is a well-done homage to the Seamaster. So that's always a positive. So now your case construction and the materials used in this watch are also pretty high quality because, you know, again, this is a dive watch. So your case is going to be a stainless steel. Your case back is stainless steel. The crown, stainless steel. And your bezel is also stainless steel with a aluminum insert. So let's go ahead and flip over this watch here so you can see the case back and see what's on there. Basically what it says here is water resistance at 20 bar, the module number, which is 2719, MTD-1051, the model number, and then stainless steel. Now, this watch here also has kind of what I'd call a satin polish. So it does have a polish, but it's not a very high gloss polish. And I kind of like that. I would prefer this to be actually brushed. I prefer that on most of my tool watches because it doesn't pick up scratches as much, but I actually like this finish. It looks pretty good. Next up, we're going to talk about the dial here. You'll notice it is, again, an homage to the Seamaster. You'll notice the sword hands here, which is very similar. And just a very easy to read, well-designed dial. Down here, you'll see it says 10-year battery life, water resistant 200 meters. You do have the Casio Quartz logo right there, and you do have the date, of course, at the 3 o'clock position. Now, the movement in here, this is going to be a Japanese Casio Quartz. You'll notice just watching the ticks here, it is very well done. Your ticks line up pretty well with all your hour and second markings here. And another good thing is that it does not bounce. One of the things I can't stand on quartz watches, cheap ones most of the time, is when it ticks, it kind of will bounce whenever it goes, and I don't like that. This one is rock solid, just looks very high quality, and it's well done. And also I'll also mention that the ticking is barely audible at all, which is always a positive. You know, with cheaper quartz watches, you're going to hear them, and it can be quite annoying. This watch here being a dive watch, 200 meter water resistant rated, your materials, of course, are all beefed up. So you have a thicker mineral crystal, you have a nice, well done, solid stainless steel case, so you don't really hear this watch with that. Speaking of the crystal, this is a mineral crystal, so it will pick up some scratches, but it's going to hold up to most everyday use. Mineral crystal is a very hard crystal. It's not as hard as sapphire, but the only way you're really going to damage this crystal is if you drop it onto concrete or some other very abrasive material, or if you have a direct impact from a steel object, say like a screwdriver or some other steel object with a sharp point. That's when you'll damage a mineral crystal. Other than that, they hold up to pretty much anything. My particular crystal here has a small little nick right there between 12 and 1 o'clock. Other than that, it's in pretty good shape. Now the bezel here, this is an aluminum insert here, and the color on it is kind of hard to say what it is. I think it's a purple. I don't know if it was meant to be black, but to my eyes, it looks purple, which actually looks really cool. So you have the kind of matte black here, or charcoal kind of black dial, and then you have a very dark blue, purplish bezel insert, and I think it looks really cool, so I like it a lot. Now, the bezel action here, we do have a unidirectional bezel. This is a 60-click bezel instead of the 120, but the negative here is that it is very slick. With it being that scalloped edge, similar to a Seamaster bezel, you just don't get a good grip on it like you would, say, a coin edge bezel. So that's one of the negatives with this particular bezel action. So you should be seeing a video pop up right now of me rotating that bezel. It does work pretty good. You just have to really grab onto that bezel If you just try to grab it with your fingertips, you're going to struggle. So I'm trying to come up with a way to actually add some texture to that. I don't know if I'm going to pop off the bezel and actually hit it with some aluminum oxide just to kind of rough up the edge, but I'm going to try to do something. That's really the only negative with this particular bezel. The action of it feels good. 60 clicks is not as, you know, I would prefer the 120 click, but 60 works just fine. Now the loom, you should be seeing the loom shot pop up right now. It's not bad. I would put it as average is what I would call it. It takes an excellent initial charge, which you should be seeing right now, but it does quickly fade. After, I would say, probably 3 hours, it's pretty dim. Then, you know, say if you charged it up and went to sleep and woke up, say 6, 7, 8 hours later, that's when this watch really fails. It is, you know, it's readable, but it's very, very dim. And you'll have a hard time reading the time after that amount of time. But it does work. The loom is usable. I do like that it takes a very bright initial charge. So if you need the loom, say like an hour or 2 hours later, it's going to work fine. Anything after that, it quickly fades. Now, the bracelet, you should be seeing when I purchased this watch, this is an eBay purchase, it came on this kind of rubber plastic strap here, and I quickly took that off. And I'm not sure if that's the original strap to this watch or not. I wasn't able to find any pictures really online to say one way or the other. I don't know if it came with a bracelet or if it was this plastic strap, but I quickly removed that and went ahead and installed this mesh bracelet here, which I feel makes the watch look better. It's more comfortable to me, and I really like it. So let's go ahead and wrap this video review up by closing out here with positives and negatives. So the first positive I'll talk about is this watch here I feel is an incredible value. So this is an eBay purchase for me, and I paid $50 for this particular watch. And I was happy to pay that because these watches here, this Casio Seamaster, it's quite rare. You don't see them come up very often for sale. So I've seen them go as high as $100 to $120 sometimes. So this one here was in pretty good shape, and I got it for $50. I'm extremely happy. I feel the value here is quite good. You get a lot of specs here, the 200 meter water resistance, the overall look of it. It's just a great value. When you compare it against, say, the quartz version of the Seamaster, which brand new, that watch is going to be well over $2,000. Used, you know, watches can go over $1,000. So you know, $1,000, call it a used Omega for $1,000 and this one for $50. I would take this all day. It's a great value. The overall looks is also a positive. You know, being an homage of the Seamaster is a huge positive for me. I just think that is a very cool watch, and this is a well done homage of that particular watch. So definitely gets a lot of compliments when I wear it. People always ask if it is an Omega, but of course I always show them like, you know, no, it's actually a Casio, but it does get a lot of compliments. So the overall package of this, though, how it looks is definitely a positive. Another thing too, being a quartz, you're going to have excellent timekeeping. So I love that, you know, with a quartz watch, with a quality movement, you may not have to change the time or adjust the time, I mean, for say months at a time. This one here, I'll set it and it will be fine for multiple months, and that's always a positive. Another cool thing with quartz watches is they're going to be very shock resistant. You know, if you drop this watch or bang it on something, it's not going to affect any of the accuracy at all. It's going to stay consistent. And that also goes for magnetism as well. Quartz watches just handle magnetism way better than any mechanical watch will. So that's a positive. Now, the overall build quality is also a positive. It's just a well-built watch. The materials used, everything is high quality. Another positive for me is the size, being that 41 millimeter case diameter. That is the perfect size for me, so that is a huge positive. And then the last thing I'll mention is the water resistant rating here. So this is 200 meter water resistant rated, so you could actually take this snorkeling or scuba diving if you wanted. I actually did relube all the seals and gaskets. So I will be going to the beach here in another month, and I think I will probably take this watch and see how it does in the salt water. I think it's going to work just fine. Now the negatives, I already talked about the bezel, but that is really the biggest negative with this particular watch. If it had a better grip on that bezel, it would be just about perfect in my opinion. But as it sits right now, it is a negative. I will attempt to address that. And if I'm able to improve that, I will definitely do a follow-up video to let you guys know. And then the last negative is the lume. You saw that earlier. The lume is usable, but it does quickly fade. So I do wish it would last all night, you know, after 8 hours. But as it sits, it's usable lume, but not that great. So I'll have to put that in the negative. But, you know, overall, guys, I really love this watch. This is one of my favorite quartz watches. It has everything going for it. The overall looks, the build quality, it's full, you know, 200-meter water resistant rated. So definitely highly recommended for me. If you happen to see one of these on eBay for a good price, definitely snag it. These don't come up very often, so don't wait on it. If it's a good price, I definitely recommend it. It's a great watch. Makes for an excellent tool watch, and I think you'll definitely enjoy it. So once again, guys, this is Neil at Heart of Texas Armory. If you have any questions or comments on this particular video, leave them down below. I'll do my best to answer them. Well, guys, take care. I'll catch you on the next one.